The guy in the video is trying to fight with cops. He's not leaving because he wants to stay and fight. I feel like Audit is gonna give the main guy in the video, the guy recording, he's gonna give him like an A+ because he loves people that f cops. Maybe not, I don't know. What would I have rated the people?
That guy gets an A+.
Traveler, YouTuber, and urban camper Travis Hines entered City Hall in Bethany, Missouri to inquire about the parking situation in the area.
Okay.
Can I help you?
Well, yeah, I'm having difficulty with the parking.
What do you mean with the parking?
Where's the sections for the 2 hours? Because I'm a little confused. I was going to choose some spots around the library. I want to go to the library, but there's these 2 hour parking spots. And does anybody ever have problems with parking around here?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel very unique in that matter because I'm really
confused.
Can you direct me to the person I need to talk to about the parking situation?
Well, if you have a problem with the parking situation.
Yeah, because I don't know, because I'm parked right in front of City Hall.
I can tell.
Did he say, I don't know?
Is that a problem with the 2 hour parking in front of City Hall?
I don't know where you keep coming up with this 2 hour parking.
I saw 2 signs. Dude, you need me to show you a picture of that?
No.
Like
Are you pranking me right now, or are you really?
Then you're not really.
Mr. Hines voiced his concerns about 2 hour parking signs near the library. And after several minutes of discussion, a City Hall employee called the Harrison County Sheriff's Office to assist with the situation.
I mean, the parking's a lot better up north in those cities that I've been to.
He does sound like a troll, to be fair.
Or you guys are just here for me?
Yeah, we're here for you.
Okay, all right.
I'm not.
Do you want to direct?
If he's pranking me, if he's pulling my leg, or if there's something wrong. He's very concerned about the parking. And we've got a GoPro on our chest, so we're obviously recording.
Why don't you have a seat right here?
See.
Yeah.
What's
We're
it?
going to talk to them in the back and find out what's going on.
All right. What is that? All right, yeah, because you didn't hear the conversation, so.
No, but we'll talk to you too, so.
All right, well, I'm the one that they called the cops on. I guess they buzzed the cops on. And I parked right out here, and I was asking about the parking situation. Apparently, we can park across the street. Because I mean, you know about the 2 hour signs, right? The 2 hour limits. Are you blocking me from exiting?
Purple glowing enemies.
Okay, well, I guess you want to talk to, yeah, all right, fine. You want to talk to the...
Have a seat for me.
What's the problem? What's the crime?
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, I've been sitting in my car for all morning. I just want to...
Okay.
I mean, I'll move over if you're afraid I'm going to escape. I mean, am I being detained?
Officer Harris orders Mr. Hines to take a seat after having blocked his attempt to exit the building. But when Mr. Hines asks if he is being detained, Officer Harris insists that he is not. When an individual is detained by a police officer, they have been seized within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment, according to a long line of Supreme Court precedent. However, whether or not an individual is considered to be legally detained is not always a black and white determination. In the well-known 1968 case of Terry versus Ohio, the Supreme Court explained that, quote, obviously, not all personal intercourse between policemen and citizens involves seizures of persons. Only when the officer, by means of physical force or show of authority, has in some way restrained the liberty of a citizen, may we conclude that a seizure has occurred. As time went on, the Supreme Court clarified this standard by adding the Mendenhall test, named for the case where it was first introduced in a concurring opinion, to the considerations involved in determining if an individual has been seized. In the 1991 case of California versus Hodari D., the court explained that the Mendenhall test established that, quote, a person has been seized within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment only if, in view of all the circumstances surrounding the incident, a reasonable person would have believed that he was not free to leave. And, quote, that the test for existence of a show of authority is an objective one, not whether the citizen perceived that he was being ordered to restrict his movement, but whether the officer's words and actions would have conveyed that to a reasonable person. Here, although Officer Harris claims that Mr. Hines is not being detained, a court would likely find that his actions would have conveyed to a reasonable person that they were not free to leave. By physically blocking Mr. Hines from exiting the building and then ordering him to take a seat, Officer Harris communicated through a show of authority that Mr. Hines was being detained, and accordingly...
Is that true? Hold on.
went on, the Supreme Court clarified this opinion to the consideration California version has rounding note that the court of the full district person moved over the loan and in the current sentence, of course, hair not cream soft tank to take.
I'm gonna talk to you. Blocking me from exiting. You know about across the street? Because I mean,
Right there?
you know about the 2-hour signs, right? The 2-hour limits. Are you blocking me from exiting?
I'm trying to figure out why I'm being called.
Okay, well, I guess you want to talk to, yeah, all right, fine.
Have a seat for me.
You want to talk to the,
Have a seat for me.
what's the problem? What's the
I'm
crime?
just trying to figure out what's going on. Have a seat
Well,
for me.
I've been sitting in my car for all morning. I just want to,
Okay.
I mean, I'll move over if you're afraid I'm going to escape. I mean, am I being detained?
Officer Harris orders Mr. Hines to take a seat after having insisted.
I wonder why he
not
paused this before
some
he answers that
for
question.
explaining the person would show movement. Although Officer Harris claims that Mr. Hines is not being detained, the court would likely find that his actions would have conveyed to a reasonable person that they were not free to leave. By physically blocking Mr. Hines from exiting the building and then ordering him to take a seat, Officer Harris communicated through a show of authority that Mr. Hines was being detained and accordingly seized him.
You're not being detained.
What's yeah, these guys.
Oh, the guy just told him you're not being detained, so he can leave if he wants to. That means that the guy should be able to leave if he wants to, but...
Let's talk to him. What's the deal?
We're just trying to figure out what your concern is.
Okay, so she gave her side, and you got a full scope of what she said.
No, I'm asking you what your concern is. What you're.
No, are you satisfied with her story, I guess?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, well,
a lot of
yeah,
questions.
so you understand where she's coming from, and my side is...
He's standing directly in front of the door, though? Then ask him to move. The point is, the cop blocked the path and told him to take a seat. Well, he said, can I leave? He said he's not being detained, so the cop should step aside. You just say, can I leave? He told him to sit down. He asked him to take a seat. But then the guy also said, am I being detained? The guy said, no, you're not being detained. Like, oh, okay. Can I leave?
I'm interested in finding a good parking spot.
Okay. There's 2 lots right here if you're looking for on-square.
Yeah, and
The reason why the guy, hold on, f me, dude. It's so bad faith. But the most frustrating thing is you f***ing retards calling me bad faith. The guy in the video is looking for a fight. The guy filming is looking to fight with cops. That's what he wants to do. That's probably what the guy's whole channel is trying to fight with cops. So the guy in the video is trying to fight with cops. He asked if he could leave. He knows he has the right to leave because these autistic retards read up and down the law and their rights and everything every single day. He asked if he was being detained. The cop said that he's not being detained. If the guy wanted to leave, he literally just has to say, can you step aside so I can leave? The cop's not even blocking the door anymore. The guy knows this. He's not leaving because he wants to stay and fight. For you to say like, oh, you're being bad faith because no, he's not. Like, the guy literally asked if he could leave and the guy said he could leave. Like, that's it. The guy, he's just trying to be a nuisance. He's trying to be autistic because he's trying to get a rise of the cops, which is fine, by the way. You have the right to do that, and the cops shouldn't respond in a negative way. But to be like, oh no, Destiny, a reasonable person. This guy's not a reasonable person. He's here autistically looking to fight with police officers, and the guy knows his rights, and he knows he has the ability to leave, and he's choosing not to.
if we could walk out there, I mean, I'll show you where I'm parked.
But where were you parked?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Just show me right here.
Am I being detained for a crime?
We're trying to figure out what's
Well,
going
then
on.
it'd probably be easier to like point from the closer area to this parking where I'm at and where I can park outside. You guys prefer to talk inside?
Yeah, it's cold outside.
Cold outside.
Oh, it's because, okay, well, that's reasonable.
We're not sure what your concern is what.
This is a 2-hour parking. I'll get a ticket for 2-hour parking. You know what?
Get a ticket for 2-hour parking.
Okay, so I guess I didn't ask the question directly. Will I get a ticket for parking longer than 2 hours? The answer is no. Okay, well then that settles it.
All right.
Do you have your
What-
driver's license on your
What's
driver's license?
what is it?
So I can identify you. Make sure you don't have any warrants.
Well, I mean, first we have to establish a crime.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
Making contact with you is good enough.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can request the ID for making contact, but you don't have to compel somebody to give up an ID unless you believe a crime has been committed.
And you
I've been
can make
called here.
contact.
Hey, I've been called here to make
Harris?
contact with you.
Okay.
It's Officer Harris.
Well, who's the
If
caller?
you're failing, they are.
Well, no, they were the buzzer. They buzzed,
If
right?
you are failing to identify yourself to me and not give me your ID,
Yeah.
I will take you to jail.
If you want a crime.
Officer Harris claims that
I have a feeling Audit is going to say the guy. I feel like Audit is going to give the main guy in the video, the guy recording, he's going to give him like an A+ because he loves people that f cops. Maybe not. I don't know. This cop here doesn't have a right to demand an ID. He can ask for one, but he can ask for one, but he can't demand one. He can't compel the person to give it up.
being called to make contact with an individual grants him the authority to identify the person he was called to contact. As we have discussed many times on ATA, individuals can only be legally required to identify themselves to officers if there is a reasonable suspicion of criminal
crime.
activity, and the state has enacted a stop and identify statute that requires individuals to identify themselves in these situations. Therefore, citizens cannot be required to identify themselves simply because an officer makes contact with them, even in states that have passed stop and identify laws. And only some stop and identify laws authorize officers to arrest individuals for refusing to identify themselves. As the Supreme Court explained in the 2004 case of Hybel versus 6th Judicial District Court of Nevada, Humboldt County, quote, "In some states, a suspect's refusal to identify himself is a misdemeanor offense or civil violation. In others, it is a factor to be considered in whether the suspect has violated loitering laws. In other states, a suspect may decline to identify himself without penalty." While Missouri has passed a stop and identify law, which is codified in section 84-710 of the Missouri Revised Statutes, it simply states that police officers, quote, "have the power to stop any person abroad whenever there is reasonable ground to suspect that he is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a crime, and demand of him his name, address, business abroad, and whither he is going." It does not place a legal obligation on individuals to comply with an officer's demand for identification. So even if Officer Harris had a reasonable suspicion that Mr. Hines was involved in criminal activity.
Are cops knowingly exercising this kind of thing, or is it a lack of education? I feel like one of the first things you learn as a cop is all the autistic rules around, cops, hold on. A cop will try to f you as much as you'll let him. That's what cops do. They shouldn't. Cops aren't generally in the business of breaking the law, but a lot of cops rely on you not knowing your rights. Like, hey, like, would you be comfortable if I just like took a look in your car? Like, can I just like take a look and see if anything's going on over here? Like, hey, do you mind, like, can I just check your ID so that we feel safe, blah, blah. Like, cops will say things like this, and what they're trying to do is compel you to essentially waive your rights. This is why I've said this before. I had a talk with a friend a while ago about this, that it's really ridiculous to me that in the United States of America, we don't take like a civil or criminal procedures class in school to like learn like what does a basic trial look like what rights do you have during a stop. Like in the United States of America, very few people have any idea what their actual rights are when confronted by law enforcement. And law enforcement absolutely tries to take advantage of this fact when they stop you, because they'll make tons of requests that they technically don't have the authority to demand of you, but they rely on you being polite and you doing what you can to kind of like to give in to the requests that they make. Yeah. If you've done nothing, there is nothing to hide. Do not ever think that. That is the worst. That is the worst idea. The problem that you run into is the state side. The police officers really generally, in a very broad macro sense, is just trying to build a case, arguably speaking. The problem is that if you are answering questions, you might be answering questions that are incriminating you for a crime that you didn't even know you were being investigated for, and you could have avoided a whole bunch of mess by just shutting the fuck up and either lawyering up if you're actually being detained and then arrested for questioning, or just not by saying anything more than what you're legally compelled to. Now, realistically, like, how do you act? Like, if a cop really wants to search my car and he's pulling me over some bullshit, I'll probably let him because I know I don't have shit, and because usually if you're nice to cops, they won't write you tickets or whatever, right? Whatever. But so realistically, like, you probably want to be polite to cops and let them fucking do their walk, rub their dick on you, whatever the fuck makes them happy, because usually they're a little nicer. But if for whatever reason, one, you don't want to, which is totally within your right, or two, if you do have if you've got a warrant or any other shady shit or dumb shit, or if your friend has weed in the car or whatever, you should be very aware of the rights you have, and don't ever think that like, oh, well, especially if it's serious questioning, you don't ever want to get in a situation where you start answering questions and all of a sudden you're like in a fucked situation where it's like, hey, well, the reason we're actually talking is because we got a call of like a suspected break-in, and now you just told me that you came walking from over there. You didn't have to say that you came walking from that area, but you told me, and now because we got a call, because you kind of match a description, and now because you told me you're walking there, I actually have probable cause to arrest you. Like, now I'm going to take you down to the station for questioning. Now you're in a whole bunch of trouble. You didn't even realize that you were being questioned about. You got to be very, 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 very careful when it comes to like answering questions from cops, because you might be incriminating yourself in ways that you didn't even realize. Yeah, just be careful. So always get a lawyer right off the bat. Not right off the bat, just, bro, I don't know your rights, okay? That's what I'd say. Good luck, be careful. Yes, always ask for a lawyer whenever a cop wants to talk to you. There's no reason not to. That's not true. Nobody's gonna say, I'm gonna call my lawyer for my speeding ticket detainment. Destiny, do you know why I pulled you over? It was a question asked by a cop in a traffic stop to elicit an incriminating response. If your response is anything but, I want a lawyer, you risk giving the state evidence that you don't need to. No, I don't think that's true. Cops might ask you that question to like do some other bullshit, but the police officer doesn't need your admission of a crime to pull you over and get you on like speeding. Like if a cop has dinged you with a radar gun and he's got you speeding, he doesn't need you to say, do I know why I pulled you over? Yeah, because I was speeding. Gotcha, bitch. Like he's already got enough evidence to win in court and everything. Generally when cops are talking, generally when cops are asking questions, there's two things going on. On the good faith version, which is probably most cops, okay, as a fellow cop lover, I'll say this. Most cops are usually asking questions because they're just trying to figure out what the is going on. And the more they talk to you, the more they're getting an idea of who they're talking to, right? So if you start slowing your speech, if you start acting really weird and shady, if you whatever, like cop is making a whole bunch of character assessments every time you open your mouth to say anything. Number one, okay? Now in the bad faith sense, if you open your mouth and you say some shit, a cop is looking to just you on things, for you to admit to other things, like why'd you get pulled over? Oh, because maybe my tail lights out because my registration's expired. Maybe you pulled me over because you know I have a warrant. Like they're looking for you to say some dumb shit that they can like further build an investigation on or use probable cause for investigation. But generally cops are trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
Under Missouri's law, he had a right to decline to identify himself without penalty. However, it's important to note that in some situations, a 911 call alone can provide enough evidence to support detaining and identifying an individual in a state that requires citizens to comply with an officer's identification demands when the officer has reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. As the Supreme Court explained in the 2014 case of Navarrete versus California, the court has, quote, firmly rejected the argument that reason...
I don't know, I'm only a paralegal. Get Peace Corps, Esports Batman here to tell you why you're wrong. You're not going to listen to me when you're wrong. I've already talked to enough criminal litigators or criminal lawyers to know, yeah, I know I'm right 100% on this. But yeah, knock yourself out. You don't need to. If a cop dings you with a gun, you don't need an admission there to be guilty of a crime. Or you can probably Google fight my traffic ticket. You can never go to court and say, oh, well, it's his word against mine, because there's some legal reason why, assuming the officer has proper training with a radar gun and dings your speed or whatever, like that admissible evidence is going to outweigh your testimony that you weren't speeding. That's how it works. But listen, if you don't agree, then hey, fuck me, go fight your speeding ticket. Good luck.
Reasonable cause for an investigative stop can only be based on the officer's personal observation rather than on information supplied by another person. And a 911 call can be...
If you ask a cop if you're compelled to answer, will they answer honestly? In my experience in watching videos that I've seen on the internet, it seems to be the case that if they ask the cop, do I have to answer this? Usually the cop will say, no, you don't have to, generally free to go. However, be careful. You don't always want to rely on cops to tell you your rights because one, they might be a little bit sneaky with it, and two, they sometimes don't know. Sometimes police officers don't know the rights that you have. I think we've watched videos where cops have tried to compel people saying, no, you have to give me ID. No, you have to do it. And the cop actually doesn't know. The cop's actually dead wrong. Or there's that one where the cop's like, I'm gonna arrest you for blocking the traffic when that guy's dad was across the street. And then other cops are saying, I'm arresting you because you're recording me, when that's not legal as well. So you don't always want to rely on a cop to tell you what the limitations of your rights or freedoms are. Like, yeah.
Sufficient to create a reasonable suspicion as long as the call shows, quote, adequate indicia of reliability.
If the cop is wrong on cam, what would happen? I don't believe there's a penalty for a cop not accurately telling you your rights, but maybe you can fight over that in court. But if you ask a cop, like, because I think the state would say it's your responsibility to know what your rights are. But if a cop says like if a cop were to tell you that you had to talk to them, do they get, well, I'm not sure actually. I don't know actually, I'm not sure. I don't know. You'd have to ask a lawyer for that, I'm not sure. If you were like, do I have to give you my ID? And the cop is like, yes, you have to give me your ID. And you didn't have to give them your ID. And that ID, that later starts an investigation that gets you in trouble for something. Maybe you could argue in court, like fruit of the poison tree or some bullshit. I don't know, that like, since an investigation is built off an improper thing like that, and the cop said that, I don't know if the court would just say, it's your responsibility, you know your rights, it doesn't matter if the cop is right. I don't know the answer to that.
For the officer to credit the caller's account.
Oh, you wanna charge me with a crime?
If you don't identify yourself,
We want to identify you.
Well, I don't,
Where's your
that's,
driver's
I'm sorry, but I have to enforce my Fourth Amendment rights. So,
Okay. Well,
I don't understand.
you have the right to
If you
identify
think,
yourself to me.
if you
So
think
where's your ID?
if you think your
is this?
prosecutor's gonna back you up on that, they wanna follow through on this charge, we'll see how those arguments go. They tend not to go too well in your favor,
Okay.
just doing this,
Well,
what, a charge of what?
Do you not want to give me your driver's license?
Well, do you wanna give me your driver's license?
I don't have to give you my driver's
Well,
license.
I don't understand why you can't give
I'm
me,
making contact with you.
I'm making contact with you.
I'm going to run
And
you, make
these
sure
two.
there's no warrants.
Are you asking ID for your own curiosity?
No, we're-
Or for the betterment of the
We were called over here because there was someone that was irate.
irate?
City Hall.
Okay.
The reason we're asking for your ID is because a crime has been committed. We're not
Oh.
trying to charge you with one.
Well, if you think you want to follow through on charging me with a crime, I mean, see what your prosecutor, your city
I
prosecutor would want to,
Wait, hold on.
go
So
through.
here's the question is, why don't you identify yourself? We'll all move on.
Well, why don't we establish the crime? And we got a Fourth Amendment here. We got to get through here.
It's 31 life on
All right?
kill. Wait, is this a good
And,
ring?
I mean, there's steps to take with that. If you want to fully charge me with a crime, then I guess you'll have to arrest me, and follow through on that.
Sheriff Place claims that Mr. Hines has committed a crime because they received reports that he was acting quote-unquote irate. However, he does
No.
not specify which crime Mr. Hines has committed. And there are some circumstances where being quote-unquote irate could rise to the level of a crime. Nonetheless, in this situation, it does not appear that Mr. Hines' conduct violated any of Missouri's laws. For example, Section 574.010 of the Missouri Revised Statute states that, quote, a person commits the offense of peace disturbance if he or she unreasonably and knowingly disturbs or alarms another person or persons by loud noise, offensive language addressed in a face-to-face manner to a specific individual, threatening to commit a felonious act against any person, fighting, or creating a nauseous and offensive odor. While it is possible that the City Hall employees were alarmed by Mr. Hines' behavior, he did not create loud noises, use offensive language, make threats, or fight, and it is more than questionable whether the employee's alarm was reasonable. Similarly, Section 565.091 of the Missouri Revised Statutes defines the offense of harassment in the second degree, explaining that an individual commits this crime if, quote, he or she, without good cause, engages in any act with the purpose to cause emotional distress to another person. And Section 565.090 defines harassment in the first degree as engaging in the same behavior and actually causing the person to suffer emotional distress. Again, although it does appear that Mr. Hines' behavior created at least some level of emotional distress for the City Hall employees, there is absolutely no evidence that Mr. Hines instigated this interaction with the purpose of distressing them. And even if it could be argued that his behavior was meant to cause emotional distress, Mr. Hines was clearly within his First Amendment rights to complain about the parking situation.
If you think that's what your city prosecutor is going to support you on, I mean, this is a contact thing. I was just asking about parking. This would be laughed out of court, Harris. But if you want to follow through,
Yep. Are you failing to give me your ID?
are you failing to give me your
Are you
ID?
failing to give me your ID?
Okay, I'm willing to exchange
Face the
IDs.
wall.
All right,
Put your phone down.
all right.
Why does he give that up? Why does he say, I will exchange IDs? Why would you say anything at all? You don't have to.
Put your phone down.
After Mr. Hines refused to give his ID to Officer Harris placed him under arrest.
Well, but it's not just that he I don't think cops, like, being irate to a cop, I guess is going to be up to interpretation. But, like, it sounds like the guy has the opportunity to leave multiple times. He asked the guy, he said, am I being detained? And the cop said no, so he could have just left. Instead of being like, I want your ID, the cop can just say, or the guy can say, like, I don't want to give you my ID, and then it's over. But he's like, do you want to trade IDs? Do you want to, like, I don't know. That's his channel's gimmick. He asks to exchange IDs with cops. Yeah, I guess. Like, the cops need to learn how to handle themselves better against, like, these sovereign citizen dipshits. But I'm like, the sovereign citizen dipshits are doing the best that they can to, like, get a rise out of the officer. Like, that's the whole point of their channel usually, right?
Hines was held in the county jail overnight and charged with second-degree harassment and peace disturbance. The charges were dropped a few days later, but it is unclear whether Mr. Hines will be following up this encounter with legal action. Overall, the Bethany officers get an F. for escalating an innocent encounter into a criminal arrest, displaying a fundamental misunderstanding of Missouri's identification laws, and for baselessly accusing Mr. Hines of committing a crime in an effort to gain control of the situation. Instead of approaching Mr. Hines in an effort to assist him or be of service in some capacity, the Bethany officers criminalized his behavior and ultimately arrested him for failing to comply with their unlawful orders. This interaction presented a perfect...
I'm gonna guess that he gives the guy on the video, I'm gonna guess he gives him an A-. That's my guess.
Opportunity for the officers to welcome a citizen to their city and address any concerns that Mr. Hines had about the parking situation, and nothing that Mr. Hines did suggested that criminal activity was afoot. The Bethany officers blatantly misrepresented several laws, completely disregarded Mr. Hines' Fourth Amendment rights, and failed to do any measure of investigation before conducting an arrest. And it's no wonder that the charges against Mr. Hines were promptly dismissed. This interaction highlights how...
Wait, he asked for the cop to move and he refused. Is that true? I didn't hear that part, or I wasn't paying attention when he said that. I heard him ask if he's being detained, and the cop said, no, you're not being detained. I heard that very clearly. I didn't hear him say, can you move? But he might have, and I missed it, but...
Quickly, a small misunderstanding can escalate into an unnecessary arrest when members of law enforcement neglect to properly carry out their duties. Mr. Hines gets an A, because although... He could have exercised his right to silence more effectively. He remained calm and collected throughout the encounter, maintained a reasonable balance between complying with the officer's orders and questioning his conduct, and challenged the legitimacy of the officer's actions without becoming rude or vulgar. At no point did Mr. Hines commit a crime or display any conduct that would warrant a police officer's involvement. And it is difficult to understand why the Bethany City Hall employees called 911 at all. Mr. Hines does not...
It is absolutely not. The guy sounded like a schizo when he came to the counter. What was the start of this video? Am I parked for 2 hours? Can I park? I don't even know if the city clerk would know the answer to this question. But like the guy at the start of the video sounded kind of like a schizo.
Consider himself a First Amendment auditor, but he is also no stranger to police interactions. Mr. Hines lives in his car and travels all across the United States, stopping at various public parking lots to rest and enjoy whatever public facilities may be available. And this often results...
Oh, so he actually is a schizo. Jesus Christ. Okay.
And the police being called to investigate his behavior. Mr. Hines often demonstrates a relatively thorough understanding of his rights, and certainly has a unique way of expressing himself and exercising those rights. Be sure to give Mr. Hines' channel your support. You can find a link in the description below. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.
Okay. Just clarify, the arrest was wrong. I didn't see any reason for them to arrest the guy. You can ask him for shit or whatever. What would I have rated the people? The guy filming the video, I'd probably give him like a C+. Like he didn't technically break the law. He seems to be peripherally aware at least of what his rights are. But he's also like just annoying to deal with, and he also seems to be very desperate to escalate situation with cops for YouTube content. So I give him like a C, I guess, because he didn't technically do anything illegal. I'd give the cops, I'd probably give them, since anytime you're making like an arrest that you probably shouldn't make, the best you're getting is probably like a D+. So I'd give the cops probably like a D, because cops showed up. They also seemed kind of keen to escalate, as police officers in these videos often are. But like, I mean, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. The guy was acting kind of fucking schizo, but I'd probably give the cops like a D. I'd probably give him like a C. If I was in a worse mood, I'd give him a C-. Why does being obnoxious and hostile weigh down his grade? Isn't it about his legal knowledge? No, I think it's about your engagement with the system in general. I don't think that, no, I don't think that just your, your demeanor and everything is incredibly important when it comes to managing encounters. Like if a cop comes up to me, like I have every right to be skittish as fuck if I want to. I can reach into my pocket if I want to, right? Like it's like, no, your demeanor is incredibly important when dealing with most people in life, right?
Hey, so in this video, we're going to take a look at...
That's what horses eat.
That guy gets an A+.
Yeah, what, for making content for YouTube?
Yeah, exactly, for making... He has one job, to get cops to arrest him when he's not doing something illegal. And he has to not, like, cross the line himself so that he won't get found in court. So he's like a Giga Chad. He did it. He acted super schizo. He might be schizo, but he acted super schizo, and he didn't do anything illegal, and the cops arrested him. So he's like A plus. He was like right on the border of being like, can we actually charge this guy? You know?
Okay. I'll give him an A plus for YouTube content then. Okay.
Well, you don't think he?
Not for the interaction. Though. He handled the
Well,
interaction.
dude, if he
terribly.
no shit, if me or you walked in there, I'd be like, here, let me know how this would go. I'd be like, hey, so I noticed all the signs here say 2-hour parking, and I was just curious if you have anything that's longer. Oh no, sir, sorry, it's only 2-hour parking all around here, but I think there's a lot a few streets over. All right, thanks, bye. And then that's the end. And I have no YouTube content. No shit, he can do that. He's going in there with a f***ing mission. Okay, he's got to get some cops to show up. He's got to get them to like be frisky. All the stuff. You know that's how it's got to be. Like, right?
Yeah.
These videos would never happen if you were
Can I just
polite.
not see in here? Sorry. True, I agree.
Yeah.
Nice glitch. Okay. Anything else you want to add to that?
You gonna anything else, me?
Yeah. Gotcha. Anything else?
You motherfucker.